Louisa, welcome. Firstly,
You.
why the bloody hell do I call you the Shiva Diva?
Right. Okay. So you call me the Shiva Diva because, yeah, I love that. I love
You like
that.
that?
You
That's
call me the
called
Shiva
product
Diva.
placement.
Yeah. Because I co-created a deck, which, oh, look, you can get a close up, called the Shiva Oracle cards. See, there we go. There's my name. And Arya Shweta V is my co-creator. She lives in Mumbai. And we have never met in person.
I love that. And that's great because we've never met in person either. But yeah,
No.
I feel like I've been like surrounded by you for the last year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, likewise, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I feel very honoured to be here. Thank you for inviting
Ah, no, nice. So how did you get into Oracle decks and all of that? Because I think for many people listening, when you say Oracle decks, tarot cards, most people are going to be probably looking at that image or that scene from Gavin and Stacey where Ness is doing the free readings, and she says that she makes it all up, and it's a paperweight. So, how did you get into oracles? You have me absolutely hooked on reading. I come to your readings every Monday on Instagram. Cheeky plug. So what got you into it?
Right. Well, I think I've always been attracted to the metaphysical anyway, like right from when I was little. I've always been a great believer in magic, and I suppose the magic that's all around us all the time and connecting with things. And then I sort of went through a bit of a pagan phase when I was about 17, where I was kind of trying to figure out where I sat between organized religion and spirituality. Because I think, there are a lot of people who are raised within a certain religion, and there is a lot of misunderstanding around spirituality and around oracle cards and tarot cards. Quite often they're seen as being sinful or something to be feared, or something like that. And so I just decided to experiment and find my own way in this. And then I bought my first Oracle deck, I think when I was about, want to say I was about 30, something like that. So,
Wow.
yeah. So, um, and before that, I was more into other things. But yeah, when I was about 30, so that was 20 years ago now. And then where,
Sorry, I was supposed to go. No,
No,
sorry.
you weren't. No, you weren't. It shows. So then, well, let's see, in 2009, I suffered a miscarriage, and then in 2010, I suffered my second.
Wow.
And I I don't think I've ever experienced something, so I can feel it even now, something so incredibly painful.
Hmm.
And I have to say that I kinda lost my mind a little bit.
Which
Um,
is kind of understandable, right?
yeah. I mean, there would be times when I would just go for a drive and I'd just sit in my car and wail. I mean, it was really from deep within, I just couldn't find a way of releasing the pain because it was just so torturous. And one day I came across a YouTube video. I came across a YouTube channel which featured Doreen Virtue. And a lot of people know Doreen Virtue from the old days, as it were. She has basically kind of rejected all her previous work and gone down the organized religion route. She's like totally off that now. But at the time, she was doing readings from her kitchen on the Big
Wow.
Island. She lived in Hawaii at the time, and yeah, she was just doing little readings from her kitchen, and I thought, This is great," and it just felt like the right fit to me. I wanted a connection between myself, between what I was experiencing and God, if you like, source, the divine,
Mhm,
whatever you want to
mhm.
call it. And using the cards felt like I was having a conversation. It made me feel like I wasn't so alone because
Wow.
I did feel very alone at the time. Um,
It's it's interesting when you say you felt very alone,
mm,
and you said about having a conversation, because I think one thing that is very, very kind of poignant for me is the fact that a lot of people don't talk about grief. And um, I know we talked about this before. It was later in my life I realized that I was actually grieving for the sister who passed away before I was even born. And it was quite funny because a friend of mine once said to me about how it's really hard to grieve for someone that you've never met,
no.
like with a miscarriage or something like that. So how how did you kind of use that with what you kind of went from the kind of like looking at the oracle cards? How did they really help you from that then?
They offered me comfort.
Mhm.
I would choose oracle cards that were very uplifting. I would go for what you might call angel cards.
Mhm.
So all of the cards had archangels in them, or they were themed on a particular archangel, or something like that. So I really felt more connected that way. Um, and I suppose that kind of ties in with the religious aspect as well, because there are angels present in every religious text,
Mhm.
regardless of which religion you are. Um, so I just felt like connecting with them through the cards was helping me to process and work through my grief. And, that opened me up to angelic experiences, even because I had opened my mind and myself to the concept of um, angels and angels speaking to me. That kind of snowballed into noticing signs and synchronicities and having angelic experiences. So, it really did start off something so much bigger just by starting with oracles.
So when you said about like synchronicity and signs, what's does any of that, anything like superstition come in with you with there then? Because I'm going to tell you something funny. And when I was about, must have been about 22, I used to work in a shop in the local town, and I used to skateboard on a longboard cruiser, and I would avoid every single drain hole cover if they were in freeze. So when you talk, so I know you talk a lot about, it's funny, I would normally write out questions, but I thought I can't write out questions when I'm working with someone who deals with intuition. So I'm just going to go with my intuition today. So there's no plan. I've got no questions. I'm just making them all up.
I
Um,
love it.
but when you said about that, I just thought about signs and stuff, and I feel there's a lot of things in my life that I've maybe taken a different path or different direction because of something like, I'm going to go around this because it doesn't feel right. So what do you when you say about signs and stuff, what does that sort of really mean to you when it comes to signs? And is there certain things you're looking out for?
Um, quite
I've now
often.
got Superstition by Stevie Wonder in my head, by the way. So
It's a great
it's
song.
a
What a
great song.
banger.
Mm.
Yeah. So, okay, when it comes to superstition, I used to be really superstitious. And I think that
Hmm.
does kind of lead into this in some
That's what I
respects.
was thinking. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, so like magpies, that was my thing.
Do you
So,
want, sorry, I've got to interrupt again. Magpies for years, right? I'm 43, and it wasn't till I was about 35. One day my wife said, "Why do you always shoot the magpies when it's only one?" I said, "Yeah, one for sorrow, two for joy. You shoot the magpie." She went, "It's salute, you dickhead." And I went, "What?" And I know that it was Tom, who's the singer of my old band about 20 years ago, who I first ever heard it from. And he must have said salute, but because his fingers were out like that, I've been shooting magpies for 20 years.
that is hilarious.
What do you do with that?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Anyway, sorry, carry on. Magpies.
So yeah, I would follow that. So 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for girl, 4 for boy, etc., etc.
5 for silver, 6 for gold, right?
7 for a secret never to be told.
Right.
If it's any more than that, God knows. Uh,
Alfred's Hitchcock and everyone's freaking out. So yeah.
yeah, pretty much. So I mean, I became quite obsessed with that for a while. Um, I don't I don't see it as those things anymore. If I see a single magpie, I just trust that there will be another one behind it. So I've shifted the
Ooh.
perception and I haven't allowed it to ruin my day. So when it I see signs as validation or as a heads up. So for example, let's see, I'm I'm thinking about something that I want to do and I'm considering whether it's a great idea or not. So I'm walking along and then I'm thinking about it in the moment, and then I see a single magpie. And I think to myself, right, there are times when I will see it and it won't mean anything to me. It's like, oh, there's a magpie.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where your intuition comes in.
Mm,
That's where you feel whether that was there for a reason or not.
mm.
So that's how you distinguish between something that is just there and happens to be there, or whether it has particular meaning.
So I'm assuming with things like the algorithms, telephones listening to you, sometimes you have to switch off from the fact that, oh, he's just talking about buying a new mop and a mop advert came up. Perhaps that's a sign.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are times when you have to switch things off. I mean, when I do my readings on a Monday, um, somebody
Which
said
are
to me,
incredible, by the way.
"Thank you very much." 6:30 UK time. Shameless plug. Um,
Shameless plug.
on Instagram. Um, yeah, so somebody said to me, because I was getting a lot of feelings, the when I do lives, I feel the energy of the people who are watching and potentially the ones who will. So I was feeling that last week there was a lot of tension. And somebody said to me, I'm really sorry if this is too much for you. And I said, it's not, because I work with this all the time and I know how to turn down the volume and I know how to switch it off. So those are things that you learn how to do over time. There are times when you can just let loose and enjoy, and there are times when you are listening, when your antenna is on and things start coming in.
When I first met my wife, I worked in a surf shop, and there was a comment from someone one day about when someone kind of overloads you with information, or someone's nagging, or they just talked about pushing the monkey off the shoulder and just allowing a monkey to sit on the shoulder. And it's always stuck with me, and I do this really with coaching myself, because when I'm coaching someone, sometimes it can get quite heavy with what we're talking about, and like you're saying, you're feeling that energy, you're feeling that tension, and I always have a bit of a ritual afterwards, almost like a bit of a cleanse, where I don't push the monkey off the shoulder, but I sort of allow the monkey to sort of do what the monkey's got to do and get on with my day. Do you find that that's like you're saying about that, like kind of being able to turn the volume down, is that something you have to do after doing readings?
Absolutely. Oh, yes, because otherwise you end up being like a sponge and you end up taking on things that aren't yours.
Yeah.
I find that a lot with people, and actually particularly with people who feel that they have negative attachments.
Yeah.
Um, it actually has negative attachments, like in the sense that they mean, are incredibly rare. And so often what it is a combination of the energy around them and secondly, how they're choosing to receive it. So if they have people around them that are behaving in a certain way, of course it will affect them, but also there's the allowing of that as well, and then allowing it to become a belief and then a behavioral pattern on top of that. So then when we talk about signs and synchronicities, they're looking in all the dark places and they're validating the negativity that's in their lives and see it as something that is just part of who they are and just given. And it's not the case at all. It can be changed.
I really like that because it's something that a lot of us become victims of. And I think it's something that even when you look at the ways things like social media can affect you, reading the news or watching the TV, listening
Mhm.
to everything that's going on in the world. And there's a lot of weird, horrible things that are going on in the world.
Mm.
And it's not to say that you don't care, but I think sometimes it's very easy for human race to just absorb information and then allow that to kind of almost kind of like waterfall the rest of their day and how their day is, panned out based on what they've heard, what they felt, when actually you can have empathy and be sympathetic to situations, but you don't have to let that control you. It doesn't mean that you don't care, but you have to be yourself, right? And
Absolutely.
protect your energy.
Oh, yes. I mean, I do not listen to the news. I
Me
do
neither,
not.
but ever since Trump started the elections, I've almost become "Oh, I don't watch the news." No, I don't watch the news. I just wanna see what Trump's done today because it's almost entertaining. And I've actually started going, "Right, I'm gonna make sure I don't put the news on again because I found myself getting into this pattern of this television series, you know? I'm waiting for
Yeah.
the next edition of what did Trump do today?
I mean, it's tempting to go down that road. I find that
Donald
I
Trump's an American president, by the way. If you don't watch the news, you wouldn't know who he was.
no, no. The fact is that um I get all my news and all of the things from social media anyway. I don't need to watch the news.
Yeah, yeah,
There are people out there who are outraged at the things that he's saying. I don't need to watch any I don't have to go out of my way in any way whatsoever to find out what he said today.
absolutely, absolutely. So with that in mind, me talking about the morning and watching the news, I'm really curious because a lot of people will ask about morning rituals and so forth, but have you got an evening ritual? So you've had a busy day. Have you got a way that you kind of cleanse or cleanse your mind or anything like that? Is there any way that you kind of switch off before you kind of end your day?
Um, I have a lot of sort of self-care rituals, and
Hmm.
it tends to be like with the body.
Yeah.
Um, you know, cleansing the body because actually when you do that, you are bear in mind, actually do this as a conscious thing, is
Hmm.
that when you're having a shower, just imagine everything that has been on you and stuck itself to you over the day. And you are literally you are brushing it off. You're letting the
Wow.
water flow over you and just washing it all away. And like with your hands, just literally on your arms and on your legs and everywhere, you just wash it away and brush it away so
Wow.
that you feel like you're not just physically clean in your body, but you are clean in every respect. And then like even with the things that I put on my body, they are all chemical free and all of those things. I have found, particularly as I've got older, that I have become more sensitive to substances. I'm not talking about illegal substances. I'm talking about things like alcohol
They're
and
probably the
caffeine.
illegal substances are probably the most natural ones out of all of the chemicals out there at the minute.
It depends if they're made in a lab,
That's
but
fair play.
but if we're talking cannabis and mushrooms, then obviously, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Uh,
I get my psychedelics through meditation, so it's fine.
exactly, exactly. There's no need, but I found that using products that are beneficial to my body without the fillers, without the microplastics, without all of those things, I find that to be incredibly important. And I feel so much better for it. And then bedtime, again, my environment has to be just so. So when I go into my room, I love lights. Okay. I've got, I don't know if you know these, the little astronauts that project a nebula onto your
Ooh.
ceiling and green stars everywhere. It just feels very like, yeah,
Wow.
it's really cool. And I've got a selenite lamp next to me. So basically I've got a selenite tower with like a little light underneath it, and it makes the selenite look like it's changing color. And I've got my tropical plants in there, and basically I'm creating an atmosphere that is conducive to rest and relaxation and calm. And
Wow.
then I can wind down and then go to sleep, you know?
I love that. I love that. I discovered a few years ago, what's his name? David G.
Mhm.
I'm definitely having one of those weeks this week where I'm like, yeah, early signs of forgetfulness, I tell you.
Oh, don't.
David G, put this lemon oil or something on his pillow, and he was
Mhm.
saying about it, and he said it helped him kind of just switch off. Anyway, I found this, oil-based little bottle, and it's called Sleep Ease, and it's
Mhm.
like lemon, lavender. Now, as a kid, I used to hate lavender because, grandma used to stink of it, right? It was one of those, you go into the house, you'd be like, ugh, gross. I remember struggling to go to sleep at a relative's house once because of the smell of lavender was so strong. And I remember thinking to myself, how the hell does this make people sleep? But I realized it's because that was too much. Because I put like a couple of drops on my pillow every night. And if I can't sleep, I'll use like a little mantra meditation to kind of get myself off to sleep, or I do some form of like yoga nidra. And one particular time I went like that, shook the bottle, and the little cap came out.
Right.
And I went to bed, and I literally was like it was like I was on hallucinogens because I had this strong lavender lemon stuff going on, which is now why I know as a kid that maybe too much of something. Wow, I went into a Spice Girls song then, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. I noticed that.
Or awkward. I don't know what the lyrics are to that song. I'm actually listening to Mel C's audiobook at the minute. It's amazing.
Oh,
Amazing story.
really?
Yeah, really amazing. Anyway, so with that in mind, we've talked about meditation recently. And is that something, because you talked about it recently, saying about kind of getting into your morning meditation again. I know that my mornings start off with meditation, coffee, which I know you're not a massive fan of coffee, right?
Not right now. Uh,
Didn't you have a little incident the other day?
oh, I had a big incident with coffee. I went to a well-known chain for a coffee. I went to meet a couple of friends, and I had a medium black Americano. In the mornings, I have black coffee with nothing in it, and as in no sweetener or anything like that. And I noticed sort of towards the end of the coffee, I was starting to feel a little bit wired and kind of just feeling really overstimulated in my body, which did not feel nice. I was not enjoying it. Um, and I started to feel unwell. I was sweating. I just didn't know what to do with myself. I I thought, right, I'm going to have some lunch and hopefully I'll feel better after that. Did I? Absolutely not. went to go and pick up my kids. I always get there early so I can get a decent parking spot.
Yeah,
Don't tell them this.
you're one of those mums, are you?
Yes, yes. But what I do is I park up and then I go for a walk. So I go around the block. I'm trying to walk off this coffee. Not happening. Absolutely not. Did everything I needed to do. Do you know what? I could barely bring myself to make my kids their food in the evening because I felt so awful. I didn't know where to put myself. I couldn't work out if I was tired or if I was wide awake or what. My body was in serious conflict and I got next to no sleep. I would doze off because I was obviously incredibly tired and then wake up with my eyes wide, like, oh, is it time to get up yet? Nope, it's midnight. Then is it time? Nope, it's 3, it's 4. I thought, I'm
Wow.
just gonna open the curtains and look at stars for the rest of the night and get up at 6:30 like I normally do. And the next day was just as dreadful.
Wow.
I know, I know. 2 days and then again, my body was doing some horrible things. Then it got mental. My mind spiraled into one of the most negative places I think I have been to in I don't even remember how long. The trash talk was coming in. I was
Wow.
calling myself all kinds of names, and I was just like, "What is happening right now?"
You need to push that monkey off your shoulder.
Dude, honest to God,
Do
it
you know
was
what's really funny that you said that? Because I made a bit of an agreement with myself that I would only support local coffee chains.
Mhm.
And in a bit of a rush, because I used to go to certain coffee chains, we won't mention them, but I would find myself in a very similar situation. Now, I'm someone who can drink quite a lot of coffee, but I never used to feel like this. And you know, when you go to a lot of coffee places, so sometimes you're like, oh, we've got our new roast on, and you're like, okay. And this particular this particular brand that we're probably talking about actually now sell in the supermarket. And about 2 weeks ago, I bought said brand and put it in my V60, and I do my V60 pour overs every single morning. Now, I usually use a couple of different, I'm going to give them a plug because they're bloody amazing. They were called Sabins, and I can't remember what their new name is. They're a local roaster, which are based sort of towards Bude direction, and then also Roastworks. Now, I have to say that these don't taste like coffee. These taste like fruit teas, but they're like amazing. They
Oh,
and I truly believe that if you brew a black coffee properly, in my mind, you get to taste all the notes and everything like that. Now, I bought that brand that we're probably both talking about, and had the same buzzy effect. And I'm wondering if these big coffee chains are just using so many chemicals to mass produce these things because these local small roasters aren't.
yeah.
And it just makes me wonder because when the beans come out on the local ones, I say local beans, they're obviously not made locally, I get that, but they're like smooth and like have like a matte finish, whereas some of these mass produced ones come shiny and like almost like they've
Mhm.
been and they're rock solid.
Yeah.
So I do wonder whether, I'm not making any allegations here, but I do wonder whether some of these mass produced coffee chains, they can't be roasting and doing stuff in at the same way and the same slow process as they do in these other local kind of roasters. It does make you wonder what processes they're using, right?
Yes, exactly. And, it goes back to the importance of what you put in your body.
That's literally what I was just thinking. It's like when you said that a minute ago, it just made me think, I wonder if it's like if it's because we found this with dishwasher tablets. We have stopped using the green, blue liquid ones that
Yeah.
are full of we know they're full of crap.
Yep.
But my knife and fork don't taste weird anymore.
Mhm. I
You know,
haven't used those for years and years and
yeah,
years and years.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know what I also did as well? Which my wife always tells me off for. I said, why can't we use washing up liquid? Now she says, because it will go all foamy and come out of the dishwasher. And I thought, okay, cool. So I tried it and I just put a little bit of washing up liquid in. I did get a little bit risky and put a bit more in the next time and it did come out the side of the dishwasher. But we are being marketed in such a way these days that I can wash my washing in a sink with washing up liquid, but I can't wash it in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes. Although there is a reason behind that as well.
The foam.
Well, it's not just the foaming agents, but it's to do with how the machine works, and
Welcome to Science with the Shiva Diva and Coach Casey.
I mean, for instance, well, I have a semi-industrial washing machine.
What?
Yes.
Is that
Um,
one of those ones that go? No?
no, no, no,
Oh,
no. But
that's too far.
it's gigantic. It's a 14-kilo washing machine. And most washing machines are like, I don't know, 4-7 kilos, something like that, depending on the size of your family. But my machines are gigantic. And
Mind you, how many children do you have now?
I've got 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blimey.
Yeah. So
Oh, you
although one
definitely need a big dishwasher then.
Yeah, yeah. Although one of them has flown the nest to be a paramedic, bless her.
Amazing.
But I have to use special powder in there because using things with too much of a foaming agent actually ruins the machine. So
What?
it's about how the machine works. That's why you can't just put
Do you know
regular.
what? Can we keep this between us? Because I know my wife probably won't listen to this podcast.
Okay.
Because otherwise she'd have to listen every week and she probably hasn't got the time. Actually, let's not go into people in time.
No, that's a whole other conversation.
Louisa, I'm really intrigued then. Have you tried my meditation? Because I'm going to call you out. Did you try it? Have you tried it yet?
I haven't actually, and
Oh.
that's because it flew out of my mind, and I would remember and then not, because I was doing a 40-day
So you're not in trouble?
meditation. No, 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 I know. I was doing, see, this is the thing, is that I know myself in that if I deviate from something, then I'm not going to finish it. So I was in the middle of doing a 40-day meditation.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so I was right in the middle of it, and I thought, right, I have to finish doing these 40 days because otherwise I'm gonna go off course and then not come back. And then
Absolutely.
after that, it flew out of my head. But I will do it, and I will
Definitely give
tell
it a
you what I
try.
think.
So
Yeah.
how did you get on with the 40 days then? Because I'm going to share a little thing. I was talking to a good friend of mine the other day who he said, "Oh, tell me about this meditation malarkey." And I told him, and he said, "I don't have 9 minutes in the morning." And I thought, 9 minutes. I mean, I've meditated this morning already for 25 minutes,
Hmm.
and I still got to spend, once she got her backside out of bed, about half an hour with my daughter this morning.
Hmm.
And we had breakfast together. I was sat there doing my journal. So there's plenty of time in the morning.
Of
So
course.
have you found it with the 40 days? Are you still in the 40 days? Have you found it's kind of made you feel any differently? Does it feel like it's kind of embedded as a ritual or?
Yeah, it's embedded as a ritual because I think once you make something non-negotiable as part of your self-care regime,
Mhm.
then that's when you find the time. I bet you this friend of yours, if you were to go onto his screen time, you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
We literally send memes to each other every day. So yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, how long did it take him to get to the meme that he sent you?
Because he probably watched 20 before that.
Right. So, in which case, the 9 minutes can be carved out if you want to. If you
Absolutely.
make it a priority, then you'll make it happen.
I think it's I think it's crazy because a lot of people don't believe they have a choice.
Mm.
And I think that's something that I consciously make the decision. I know I've said this before in previous episodes. I don't meditate twice a day every day, but I've stopped tracking. I used to track on my phone. I've got a habit tracker. It was morning meditation, evening meditation, and I got to a certain point where I'm like, well, that number's massive. I don't need to track it anymore. It's a habit, and I
Yeah.
and I and I know I haven't missed a meditation in a good couple of years.
Mhm.
I haven't meditated twice a day every day, but I've definitely meditated once.
Yeah.
And when we were saying about like evening rituals earlier on, I've started to really kind of push a bit more now to doing like a letting go meditation. And like you said about the washing, the cleansing, um, when I say about cleansing, I'm more meaning kind of like cleansing my mind, and like you're doing it in a very, very similar kind of way. And for me, at the end of the day, it's about kind of releasing all of that tension. And that again is a choice to release that tension and release those, you know, sometimes we get things like, someone's you sat in the traffic in front of you, and you want to just kind of get rid of that frustration. And I think for me, again, it comes back to choice, doesn't it?
Yes,
It comes back to
absolutely.
choice.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when it comes to using traffic as an example there, everything is about perspective.
Hmm.
Everything. So if you are sitting in traffic jam and you feel that tension in your body, you can feel anger rising up as well because you're frustrated, you're impatient. There
Hmm.
are things that you need to be doing. There's stuff to do. But then you need to bear in mind what you have control of in that moment. And the thing that you have the most control of in that moment is how you feel about it. So that's when it's the perfect opportunity to go inward and rejig what this means to you. So, like, for instance, I could be sitting there and thinking, oh, I'm going to be late for whatever. And then I think, well, if I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late. There might be a really good reason. Okay, first of all, what can I do? Okay, I can phone ahead and I can say, look, I'm stuck in the traffic jam. There's nothing I can do about this. I'll get there as soon as I possibly can. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing is, what am I potentially being saved from? It could be that if all the cars were to go like in Bruce Almighty and I had like a clear road, there might be something ahead that would cause me to have an accident. And I don't know anything about that.
My mum used to always say to me, "It's better to be late than dead on time." And I never realized that until when it must have been about sort of 2006. And I really kind of realized it on my way home from work one day. I was riding home on my motorbike. My wife was on the back, and I saw a friend of mine on his motorbike. I gave him a nod at the roundabout. I said to Kate, "Do you want to go the main road or do you want to go the back road?" And she said, "Let's go the back road." We went the back road. He died on the link road, on the main road.
Oh
Now,
no.
I know at that point in my life, I was probably someone who was probably spurred on by, riding with other bikers. I would never have ridden fast with Kate on the back anyway. But I've always had that moment where I gave him a nod. And that moment where you go, well, actually, we make decisions, you know, we make decisions. That could have been me in that accident. It could have been a moment where you could have actually been able to help someone. You just don't know, do you?
Yeah.
And I think being okay with your choices and, making those decisions are something that I think many people will kind of hold against themselves, but you have to realize that you can't control everything, can you?
No. And it's a good thing we can't. Because if we
Exactly.
could control everything, then there would be so many amazing things that would never happen to us.
Exactly. Exactly that. Exactly that. And if you when you think about it, if certain scenarios hadn't happened, would your children be here? Would you have been in that bar that day? Would you have met these people? So I think everything is I know you can make conscious decisions about things that are maybe silly things that you already know are stupid suggestions or stupid things. But yeah, I absolutely love that. So, Louisa, I know that you've got a really special event coming up, which I believe is actually going to probably be before this podcast is out. But I
Oh
want
my
everyone to
gosh.
know how to find you because you've got your masterclass coming up, haven't you, on the 13th?
14th. So it's on the
14th.
14th of March. It's a Friday. It's a full moon.
Well, that's good because I'm going to a gig that day. So I'm glad that you've just told me what day it is because I knew that I couldn't come because of a gig. So thanks for reminding me I'm going to the gig on the wrong day.
Excellent.
Ooh.
So yes, it's the Intuitive Oracle Masterclass, and essentially it's all about discovering your own gifts. Everyone has them. Don't sit there and tell me you don't. About connecting with oracles and using the oracles to connect your intuition and allowing you to make positive steps towards trusting yourself. Because I think a lot of people, everyone has intuition, everyone does. And they so often second guess themselves. And I think the oracles are such a great way of validating how you're feeling and also getting messages, getting a heads up on various different things. And so this is not about, oh, she's going to teach me how to read cards. This is so much more than that. This is about going within and finding out where you're supposed to be headed and finding that inner knowing.
I love that. And do you know what's really crazy is I thought it was like a read the oracle cards, then someone will tell me what that means and how that means. And I watched you sent me a training that you did on oracle readings, and I remember thinking, whoa, this is not quite what I thought it was. And actually it's more your intuitive, the way your intuitive like mind goes over like, oh, okay, well, that, what does that mean? I know you very kindly pulled a card for me a couple of weeks ago, and I remember there being a wall there, but both of us saw that that wall was slightly see-through. And what does that mean? It means, we're talking about breaking through barriers. And I was like, but it doesn't say that in the book, but it's what you interpret and what you take from it. So I absolutely love that. So I know you've got something else that's coming up later on in the year as well. So Louisa, if people want to find out more about Luisa Ricci-Wise, how
Mhm.
do you like the way I got your surname in right at the very end because I realized I hadn't said it. Um, how can they find you? Where are you on social media?
I am. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I am at Wise Woman Insights.
At Wise Woman
Um,
Insights.
yes, at Wise Woman Insights. I do have a YouTube channel as well, which I am going to resurrect. So I've only put out a couple of readings on there, but I have something in mind for my YouTube
Oh,
channel.
you heard it
Yes.
here first.
Yes, exactly. I
I don't
have
think we've ever had a world
something.
exclusive on this podcast.
No, no. Well, there you go. I mean, I'd only ever speak to you about it first
Okay,
anyway.
fine, fine.
Yeah, you have the privilege. But yeah, something else is coming and for my YouTube channel, but a few things need to slot into place first.
So Wise Woman Insights on Instagram and Facebook.
Yes, and LinkedIn.
Amazing. And just one last time, when is your live reading on Instagram?
It is every Monday at 6:30 p.m. UK time.
Beautiful. What do you call it again, your readings?
It's called the Moon Day Mood
The
because
Noonday Mood.
every day of the week is actually named after a planet. So, and Monday is for the moon.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great place to end. Louisa, thank you so much. You've been an absolute superstar, and I will see you on Monday.
You will. Thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. And that wraps up today's episode of the Coffee, Chaos and Confidence podcast with me, Coach Casey. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps other listeners find the show. Also, go and check out the show notes to learn more about my incredible guests. Until next time, make sure you chase your dreams without limitations.